Hi, my name is Phil Irvine and I'm a Director of PiRho Investment Consulting. This is the first of a series of presentations for pension scheme trustees on hedging liabilities. This talk was inspired by a conversation I had some years ago with a finance director and the chair of trustees of the company pension scheme. The presentation deals with the concept of rewarded and unrewarded risks, and why it's essential to think about this when you're considering whether and how much you should hedge pension liabilities. Imagine you are the finance director of a company. One day your sales director comes in and says, "Great news! We've just won a new £100 million contract. If it all goes according to plan, he should make us a profit of £10 million. Fantastic," you say. He goes on, "I suggest that we take the profit and gamble the lot on a spin of a coin. We have the chance of doubling our profit. What would you do?" My response would be, "Are you serious? If I lost the entire profit on a toss of a coin, I'd lose my job." I expect most of us would have said no, but why not? In investment terms, the decision can be analysed as follows. The expected return when flipping a coin is zero. Half the time you win, the other half you lose. But there are risks along the way. You could lose the entire £10 million profit. This can be seen as an unrewarded risk. In contrast, the sales contract is expected to be a rewarded risk. Whilst there are always risks in any venture, you can reasonably expect to make £10 million profit. The next day, the sales director comes by and says, "I forgot to mention that new contract. It's with an American company and they're paying us in US dollars. But don't worry, I'm quite a currency expert, and in my view the dollar is bound to go up, so we should make even more money." Let's stand back for a moment. Given a choice, as a UK company, would you prefer to be paid in dollars or pounds? I think most of us would prefer the certainty of being paid in sterling rather than dollars. Why? If the dollar was to fall by 10% against the pound, then all the profit from the contract would be gone. If it fell by even more than 10%, the new contract would be loss-making. If there's no real expertise in guessing the direction of the currency, then it's a 50-50 call whether the company makes a profit or loss from the currency movements. Half the time you win, the other half you lose. The expected return is zero, but there are risks along the way. Hence, this is an unrewarded risk. If possible, it would be better to avoid the unrewarded risk and stick with the rewarded risk of the contract being paid in sterling. But what can you do if you can't avoid currency risk? Most international companies have a policy of hedging currency exposure. Typically, they avoid currency risk wherever possible, recognise and monitor the currency exposure they have, selectively hedge firm foreign exchange commitments by using financial derivatives or forward exchange markets, and speculative trading in derivatives is forbidden. So, what is a hedge? It's an investment position designed to counterbalance the potential gains or losses elsewhere. In this example, the business deal will be worth less if the dollar falls in value versus the pound in the time before payment. An offsetting currency hedge will make a profit in this situation. Alternatively, if the dollar strengthens, the company would make more profits on the sales, but the currency hedge would lose money. The hedge locks in the currency position and neutralises the impact of currency movements, effectively removing the unrewarded risk from being exposed to foreign exchange movements. Going back to the beginning, the conversation involving the chair of trustees centred around a question asked by the finance director. Why did the company systematically hedge out currency risk in its business, but fail to hedge interest rate and inflation risk in the pension scheme? The answer at the time seemed to revolve around a belief that it was easier to predict bond yields than currencies. In fact, past experience suggests that both are hard to forecast. In investment terms, they can both be described as unrewarded or possibly poorly rewarded risks. At PiRho, we have 4 general principles to manage risk. Firstly, identify, assess and monitor the risks that are being faced. Secondly, avoid or manage material, unrewarded risks wherever possible. Thirdly, plan for emergencies and actively consider 1 in 100-year events. And lastly, consider taking rewarded risks, but don't put all your eggs in one basket. We believe these principles apply to risks within pension schemes as well as companies. So it looks as though hedging unrewarded risks is a pretty straightforward decision. My next presentation discusses how, rather than reducing risk, hedging can sometimes make the situation worse.